Why does Iron Man nearly die within minutes if the reactor in his chest is removed? Even stranger, in Iron Man 3, Tony has the shrapnel surgically removed and no longer needs the reactor to keep him alive. So why does he still immediately pass out when the chest device is removed in Avengers Endgame? To understand this, we have to go all the way back to Afghanistan. When Tony was attacked, metal shrapnel from the explosion pierced his chest and came dangerously close to his heart and major blood vessels. Because medical treatment was extremely limited at the time, the shrapnel couldn't be safely removed. So Dr. Yinsen implanted an electromagnet in Tony's chest, using magnetic force to keep the shrapnel from moving toward his heart. At first, the electromagnet had to be powered by a regular car battery. It was bulky and had very limited battery life. To escape captivity, Tony used whatever materials he could find and used palladium from a missile to build a miniature arc reactor.
That doesn't look like a Jericho missile.
That's because it's a miniaturized arc reactor. Should keep the shrapnel out of my heart.
From that point on, it became not only the power source for his Iron Man armor, but also a crucial device keeping Tony alive. If the reactor was forcibly removed, the electromagnet would immediately lose power. Without the magnetic force holding it back, the shrapnel in Tony's chest could quickly become life-threatening. In Iron Man, when Obadiah forcibly removes Tony's reactor, Tony immediately loses his strength. The deadly shrapnel in his chest is no longer being held in place and begins moving toward his heart. Tony becomes extremely weak and is on the verge of dying. Even though his spare reactor is right in front of him, he can barely move enough to reach it. In the end, he barely survives by using a mechanical arm to replace the reactor. But the palladium reactor creates another problem. After prolonged use, Tony begins suffering increasingly severe palladium poisoning. To solve the problem, Tony uses research left behind by his father and manages to create a brand new element, breaking through the limitations of the periodic table. He then uses it to build a second-generation arc reactor. The new reactor not only eliminates the poisoning problem, but also dramatically increases his energy output. Later, Tony undergoes surgery and completely removes the shrapnel from his chest. From that point on, the reactor is theoretically no longer a life support device. So here's the question. Why does Tony still become dizzy and even pass out almost immediately after removing the chest device in Avengers Endgame? There's actually a detail that's easy to overlook. After years of using the arc reactor, it had become much more than just a power source for his armor. Tony's body had also spent years adapting to the support provided by the technology. On top of that, he had already become extremely weak after spending so long in space without enough food or water. Then, immediately after returning to Earth, he goes through an intense argument and severe emotional stress. So when he suddenly removes the reactor, his already weakened body can't immediately adjust to the change. That's why he experiences such severe weakness and eventually passes out.